Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to the second Filecoin virtual community meetup. My name is Emily, and I'm a member of the Filecoin ecosystem team. We're so excited to have you here today. We have a very wonderful lineup of speakers in store, talking about some of the amazing projects that they are building on Filecoin. Our presenters will be answering questions via our community Slack channel, which can be found on the meetup.com page that you registered through in the What We Are About section. Additionally, if you would like to stay up to date on the latest Filecoin news and events, please subscribe to our newsletter as well as our Filecoin YouTube channel, which are both linked in the meetup.com page. Now, let's get started. First up, we have Nick D'Andrea, Head of Engineering at Truffle. Truffle is a software engineering tool for building smart contract-based decentralized applications. Nick will be telling us about Truffle Preserve, a new command for bridging the gap between your decentralized applications, front end, and the entire world.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Nick. I lead engineering for Truffle, and I'm excited to show off a new feature that we're adding to Truffle today called Truffle Preserve, or Truffle Preserves, because they're delicious. And the feature is still kind of experimental, but we're really excited about it. So figured we'd get it to you as soon as we can so you can start playing with it. So what Truffle Preserve is a command that adds support for a workflow that hasn't really been in Truffle before. If you members of the audience have used Truffle before, you know that it handles things like compiling smart contracts. It handles testing your smart contracts. It has a built-in Solidity debugger. But there was never really a good answer for how do you take your front end, your dApp front end, and get that onto a decentralized network. And I've been a big fan of IPFS for a long time, and Filecoin is now, with the work that Filecoin's been doing, it's really becoming possible to put your dApp front end on IPFS, and then when everyone stops seeding your front end, you can go to Filecoin and get it again and put it back on IPFS. And so that, I think, really completes that workflow. And so we built Truffle Preserve to kind of showcase this workflow and let you take advantage of it. So we published this on a dist tag. So if you want to try this at home, you'll have to do npm install -g truffle @preserves. And you can also, I put together an example box. You can, once you have truffle @preserves installed, you can run truffle unbox preserve -example. And I'll show you what that looks like. But the features that we include to get started with this initial kind of experimental release is we support preserving to IPFS, preserving to Filecoin, and I'm calling it a feature that this is pluggable because I really hope that these aren't the only two capabilities, right? Like even among just IPFS and Filecoin, like you might think, oh, I want to pin my content to IPFS, or oh, I want to interact with the Ethereum name service to give my IPFS hash a name. And so I'm really excited about what's to come there. And I hope that, the community comes up with use cases that I haven't thought of. So to show this off, I have a demo prepared for you all. And I just wanted to start by saying that there is one prereq that I've found really useful, and that's PowerGate. PowerGate provides this local net mode. And it's really easy to set up. You just follow these instructions. And so I have that running already. And that's kind of what I'm going to be doing. So I'll start and I'll just run that command. And we'll get it installed. And then I can do truffle unbox preserve example. And this is pretty much an empty Truffle project. There's some directories, but you'll see they're empty. But I have this app directory, and that's what I'm calling my front end. And so that's what I'm going to be preserving today. So I can do that. Well, first, let's learn about Truffle Preserve. Truffle has a built-in help system, so it could be handy if you want to learn about all the options. So right now, the options we support are -- environment, and I'll get into that in a bit. and then -- IPFS and -- Filecoin. So you can see I can use, I'll start with IPFS. I'm going to save my dApp front end to IPFS. And this just took the contents of that directory and it put them in the PowerGate local network that's running. It's not talking to anything else, like no other IPFS nodes on the real IPFS network, but it's pretty quick to get started. But I wanted to show more than that. So here, I'll show you inside the Truffle config, I've set up an environment, and Infura graciously exposes their IPFS endpoints to the world. And so I'm going to take advantage of that. And we'll do Truffle preserve, make this full screen. And I'm going to specify IPFS, and I'm going to specify that I want to use the Infura environment. And the hashes are going to be the same, but now it's actually been saved to another node on the network, one that other people can access. And so let's see if that works. Well, it does. I just deployed a decentralized application. So let's try Filecoin. And I have to apologize. The demo gods were not happy with me today, so I'm unable to actually preserve this app. I just saved to IPFS, so I have a separate directory that is behaving. And the Filecoin, if you're not familiar with the Filecoin workflow, if you want to initiate a storage deal to save something to Filecoin, you first save it to IPFS. So the Filecoin support, what it does first, of course, is it saves to IPFS, it captures the CID, and then it uses that CID for the storage deal. Yeah, there we go. So what has just happened is we uploaded the directory stuff to IPFS, we captured the root CID, and then we negotiated a storage deal to my local Filecoin network to ensure that this data will be available for retrieval later. So right now that's mostly serving as a backup, because it's not like the public internet can go and type in a URL for a Filecoin URL, because you have to pay retrieval deals in addition to storage deals. But this data is backed up, and then you can go and look up the storage deal by CID on your own, like when you need it, or you could do a retrieval deal for that content later. The initial plugins that we've put together are, well, just Truffle preserve FS to actually read from disk. In the future, maybe we would, maybe you want to load data from elsewhere, not just local files. And so we wanted to keep that open for, other use cases. And then we have the Truffle preserve to IPFS plugin and the Truffle preserve to Filecoin plugin. But as I mentioned, we're really, I'm particularly interested in the IPFS pinning ENS workflow that a lot of dApp developers are using today. And so expect that to come shortly. But these are all written as plugins, so there's nothing special about them except the @Truffle at the beginning. But if you wanted to make your own plugin, you can just add it to your Truffle config or have other users add your plugin to their Truffle config, and it should just work out of the box. That's all I have for now. If you have any questions, I guess reach out in the Phil events channel in the Filecoin Slack. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Nick. That's very exciting. Like Nick said, if you have any questions for him or the Truffle team, then please remember to pop them in the Filecoin event Slack channel. So next up, we have Jonathan Schwartz. Jonathan is the co-founder of Openwork Labs, a product-based studio based in Brooklyn that builds tools to improve the way that people share, organize, and archive their work. He's going to teach us a bit about Openwork Labs' Glyph, a web wallet that is built on Filecoin. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thank you. In addition to helping people share their work, one thing that I'm particularly interested in is making it really easy to get up the learning curve for Web3 technologies. And so a lot of the products that we like to build, ideally they feel like Web 2.0, like all this sort of familiar user experiences, and under the hood are using some of these more technical things that are going on. And so today, one thing that I thought would be cool, like it's also kind of hard for me for some of these meetups because I don't always know where everyone's at technically. So an assumption today is like, I'm just gonna pretend like a lot of people know very little and make it so that when you leave, you know how to get started just playing around with Filecoin through some of the tools that we've built. We have this one brand called Glyph, and it's kind of confusing because it's changed a little bit, but like Glyph is this umbrella term that we're using for all the little tools that we're building for the Filecoin and IPFS ecosystem. And so today I'll show you two. Here is the wallet. Now, obviously, like I said, we want to make things feel like Web 2. There's a certain, like when it comes to wallets that are sort of like self-custodied, meaning the user themselves are in control of their private information, it's kind of hard to not introduce some new patterns along the way. So, but that's okay. I think I can help explain or demystify some of these things as we go. So I guess like if you were just about to get started entering the Filecoin ecosystem, there's a lot of potential entry points, and I think it depends what you want to do, right? Like that's sort of the starting point. But I guess one way to get involved is to start by making a Filecoin wallet, getting some testnet Filecoin on that wallet, so then you can go and send it to friends and family, even though it's not worth anything yet. And then you could play around with this verification service as well, so that you can get better kind of like service from miners in the network. And if that doesn't make sense now, that's okay. I'll explain that. So how to get a wallet? Let's start here. This is the Glyph wallet, as you can see. There's a couple different options for how to use this. So one, this ledger device is a hardware wallet. That's, if you were looking at the camera, that's this thing. So that's the safest option. The other three are insecure, and I'll explain why a little bit as well. But if you're just playing around with sort of testnet Filecoin, or you want to build an app on Filecoin, it's totally fine, I think, to use these other options. I do all the time. So let's start with generating a new seed phrase. And again, here's the warning. Don't do this. I know. So I get it. So here's a seed phrase, which is for, I'm sure a lot of you know, but in case you don't, a seed phrase is a number of words. These words are sort of like predetermined beforehand, which ones are valid or not. And then you kind of order them in different ways. And doing that, you can basically take this order of randomly generated words, and you can derive sort of secret information from those words that you use to make your wallets. And so that's, if that didn't make sense, I think that's okay for now. You don't necessarily need to know how this works in order to use it. But the important thing to know is like, these words are super, super secret, like more important than your credit card number or the 3-digit code on the back. Like I treat these for my actual like crypto wallets as my social security number. Like no one knows about them. And if I die, it's going to be hard to find them. So I guess for now, I will copy these. And then we can go on to the next step where we challenge you. But for now, I'm going to take a shortcut, and I'm just going to import that seed phrase to option number 2. So I just pasted in the one I just copied from the first step, and now we're inside the wallet. So I'm actually on the current Filecoin testnet, and so just like the demo gods are not on Nick's side, like they weren't on my side today either. Our block explorer, the thing that we used to populate this transaction history, wasn't working earlier today. I don't think it's going to work now, but that's okay. We can make it work in bits and pieces, and I can explain what's going on. So you'll notice a couple things on the screen here. One is that I have this account. We call this just our primary account. You could call it like default. And it's this really long sort of string here. And I can show you, I'll copy it. And where can I paste it so you'll see it? Maybe I can paste it. Actually, I can go in here and I can paste that string here. So this is my full wallet address. And again, it was generated from that really long seed phrase of 24 words. And that seed phrase can also generate many other addresses as well. And I can use all of these. You could think of it as like your seed phrase is like your actual wallet. And then all of these individual accounts are kind of like individual debit and credit cards almost. And so they all have their own balances. And the same seed phrase will always produce the same number of accounts. So if I completely log out and I log back in with the same seed phrase, you'll see the same things here, same order, same balances. When I started working in crypto, this took me actually a while to understand how all this works. So hopefully this is a little bit demystified for you. So I'm going to stick with this first account. And the first thing that we would probably want to do is get some Filecoin. And the Filecoin team has put together this fountain. It's called this Lotus DevNet faucet, where I can actually paste in my address and send it funds. So now you can imagine, like, I've just gotten some Filecoin sent to me over the network, and now we just kind of need to wait for it to get processed. Like, imagine you send a bank payment from one person to another. Like, sometimes if it's Venmo, it's really quick. Or if you're in Europe and you don't know what Venmo is, it's kind of just like a digital way to send cash from your bank. But sometimes wire transfers will take days. For Filecoin, this usually takes like a couple minutes. And we'll see, hopefully, eventually my balance will pop up. It'll say, oh, there we go. So now we know this wallet now has 50 Filecoin, which is a lot. And again, it's not actually worth anything. This is testnet Filecoin. And just to show you sort of a different window into the network, this random looking string is actually like the message ID or a CID. And you could plug that into a block explorer like FileScan here. I just pasted the URL at the top here. That's the CID from my message. And we can like go ahead and inspect that and just take a look at like what actually is it. So it was at this time, which looks right according to my clock. It was from some address to the address that is on my screen here. It ends in JQ, and just some other information that I think just for the sake of time, I won't go too deep into. So now that I have Filecoin, I can actually go ahead and send it to people. So let me switch to a different address and copy it and switch back to my Filecoin. Again, I don't think this is going to work. Yeah, I'm sorry. The demo gods are like partially on my side, but not with this transaction table. So I'm going to send that second account some Filecoin, maybe just 5. And let's watch that happen. So here, again, this is working because I don't have to go into the details now, but this is kind of like a different approach to building the transaction table while you're already in the wallet. So at least here we can look at the transaction. Again, like you'll see similar things that you saw on FileScan. You'll see who it came from. That's this wallet. You'll see where it went to, how much it was, and transfer fee. And then we can also look at it on the Block Explorer. That's the basic wallet. Like it's pretty straightforward. And I guess, or I shouldn't say that. If you're brand new to this, it might still be really confusing. But at least as far as wallets go, there's not that much going on here. It's just a way to send the Filecoin that you already have. When it comes to receiving Filecoin, basically, as you probably noticed, you can just take this address and send it to anyone, and then they can plug that into their send interface and then go ahead and click send. Yeah, and then you should get the Filecoin. So it looks like that transaction went through. That's good. We can look at that on FileScan and just double check that it looks like we want it to, and it does. It was 5 Filecoin. It came back successfully. So the demo gods are not too mean today. some things that I learned while developing this wallet, because the first couple of weeks I just really spent on trying to understand what are the like big security threats here, and there's a lot of security threats that don't have to do with web-based wallet applications, like physical attacks. Like if someone approaches you on the street and asks for your phone, which has your private key, that's like getting hacked. It's not all sort of that green and black terminal where you lose your information and someone's in your Wi-Fi router, and like it can happen in many different ways. But I think there are some interesting things to note about why it's insecure to actually copy and paste things into your browser and generate seed phrases in your browser. Because I'd urge you, if you're thinking about really like storing Filecoin somewhere, don't use these options. There's a bunch of reasons why, but I think the web is not considered a secure place. There's a lot of things that, like, for example, here I have a number of extensions. I don't even have that many, but some people have like Grammarly, they have other things that are allowed to actually like put JavaScript into your web pages. And so some things that can go wrong are like a Chrome extension could peek into your browser and start looking at your, let's say, what's on your clipboard. I think LinkedIn actually just got sued for sort of surveillance of the clipboard. And if you just copied your mnemonic and then you pasted it somewhere, some Chrome extension could steal that from you. And it's just as easy as that. And now, because we know that a seed phrase is used to generate all of these wallet accounts, they can easily steal your money. Another one is that some of these JavaScript, like these Chrome extensions, can inject some JavaScript into your page that anytime they see a Filecoin looking address, they can change it and they could just swap in their address. So when you click that receive button, you're actually like sending your friend the wrong address and you didn't even have any idea. And I guess that can happen in a number of different ways, but I would urge you to only stick with these things for testing and development. And then when it comes to actual use, there are many more secure ways to go about doing this. In the interest of time, I wanted to get more into that, but I think I only have 5 or so minutes. So I want to talk quickly about Filecoin verification. And so this is an app that we put together that's still a work in progress. It is working in parts, and you could use it, but I think it's better to give you an appetite of why this is important. And then maybe in like a week or so, you could jump back on and get verified storage. So the Filecoin team wants to do a good job of incentivizing miners to store real data in the network. So essentially, like, this is definitely a simplification, but if you as a human have verified your Filecoin address, so we could go back, hang on, let me go back to the wallet really quick and plug back in my seed phrase and get my address. So this is my address. So this is my address. If I prove to the verification service that this is my address, and all I have to do is link my GitHub and then paste in this address, then that address will have 8 gigabytes worth of what's called verified data, like a verified data allowance. And so miners in the network who are actually responsible for storing the data, they will be rewarded for storing data that is considered verified or has come from an address that's verified with a data allowance. So I heard myself say that, and it sounds kind of confusing. So I'm just going to say that one more time. If you successfully verify your Filecoin address, you'll get a data allowance of 8 gigabytes. And any storage deal that you make on the network with that address, up to 8 gigabytes worth of deals that will be considered verified. And miners will actually go out of their way to make better deals for you. Remember, like Filecoin storage is like an open market, right? So you can find the best deals and then go and ask to agree on a price and a time, and then from there you've actually like stored your data with a miner. And so miners are incentivized to give better terms, whether that's cheaper storage, faster, like there's potentially many different reasons or ways that a miner could incentivize you to go with them because they want your verified data. But this is basically a way to get real data into the network quickly during launch. And once I will, like, hopefully next time we do this, the demo will be a little bit smoother, and the testnet will, like, our nodes will be able to work through some of the hiccups. But for now, this is sort of all I can show you. But you can read more about it here. I'd love actually, like, in the file help. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. If you are interested, definitely go to this site and read it over, because I want to do a better job addressing those questions actually on the site anyway. So it's really helpful if you ask any questions.
Okay, so next we're joined by Teri Chadbourne from ProtoSchool. So ProtoSchool is an educational community that teaches decentralized web protocols and tools through online tutorials and local events. Today, Teri will be giving us a live demo of the latest tutorial featuring Filecoin.
So for those who haven't been introduced to ProtoSchool before, it's exactly as Emily described. It's a community project that tries to make DWeb easier to get started with. So trying to provide beginner-friendly tutorials and events based on those tutorials. So let's take a quick look at the tutorials first. So proto.school is our website, and if you click on this tutorials tab, you can see all of our content. One of the things we do in an effort to meet people's needs is we have this option to quickly hide our JavaScript coding challenges. If you're someone who is not a developer and that content is not right for you, you can hit this toggle right here. You'll see that we have our different types of content clearly labeled here for you. So now we're adding more and more of these multiple choice quizzes. We have JavaScript coding challenges, particularly on IPFS courses. But one of the features we just introduced today is a course filter. So you can now look at specifically the content that's related to IPFS or the content related to Filecoin, which is relevant for all of you. At the moment, we don't have coding challenges on the Filecoin, so all of this is going to be accessible regardless of your level of coding experience. And you'll see that for each of these courses, we've included not only things that are directly on target for that project, but also sort of underlying concepts that we find important. So for example, with Filecoin, it's really important to understand what content addressing is. So you could look at our decentralized data structures tutorial to learn about that, and then move into this one on verifying storage on Filecoin. And now I need to undo everything you just heard about verification from Jonathan, because I'm talking about something completely different here, not about verified clients and sort of getting the check mark next to your name like you would in Twitter, but instead looking at the ways that you as a storage client can be sure, can verify that the miner that you're storing your data with is actually storing it. So on the DWeb, one of the big challenges that we face is we're working with peers who we don't know. We're not storing our data with a company where we know their reputation already. So there's this issue of trust, and content addressing helps with that. But in Filecoin, we have incentive mechanisms and proofs and consensus mechanisms that help us to do that. So this new tutorial that came out last week is about those verification methods and why you should trust that your data is actually being stored by the miner, and what happens if their computer fails and they're no longer storing your data. So each of these lessons, it has, an introduction to a new concept and then a multiple choice quiz. And you'll get a little feedback on each of these if you get it wrong the first time to kind of help guide you in the right direction. And you'll also notice throughout ProtoSchool that you can go back to the table of contents for your lesson and see where you stand. We can see that we've already finished lesson 1. You'll walk through all of the lessons. ProtoSchool tutorials are meant to be consumed in order. So it's not like a documentation site where you're going to have a great experience jumping into a specific article. This is really ordered content. So always start on lesson 1 in ProtoSchool, get through to the end. But I just want to call out that we do have resources pages on each of these. So this is a good place to go and get either like what's the next thing you might want to learn, or where can you go to dig a little bit deeper into the content here. And if you do finish a tutorial on the ProtoSchool site, we would love your feedback. So we have quick little smiley face surveys. And then all of our tutorials on ProtoSchool are also available to be taught at events. So for example, tomorrow IPFS Africa is hosting an event where their content for that event works with our decentralized data structures tutorial. So our events tab here will show you upcoming events. There are also past events, just so you can see like the groups near you, learn more about them. You'll find links to the groups that host those events. And if you want to learn how to host an event, we have the host tab here for you. So feel free to reach out to me for more information about that in Phil Events today. The other thing I just want to call out for anyone who has been playing around with ProtoSchool but wants to stay updated, we do have a newsletter now. So we email sparingly, but if we launch a new tutorial or a really important new feature, we would send you a note. And if you are interested in hosting events, then I recommend checking this box right here. And then we'll also send you any new materials that we put out for people who do want to lead events. So feel free to use that. I hope people enjoy exploring ProtoSchool, and I'm super excited that we now have the Filecoin content to offer you. So I will drop a couple of links in the Phil Events channel that you can use to get either to this course or to the Filecoin content. And if you're ever playing around here and you know someone who, say, is interested in IPFS but not coding, this URL is changing as you go. So you can always copy that URL and send someone just the filtered list of things you think they might be excited about.
Awesome. Thanks, Teri. And I've heard rumors that ProtoSchool team is working on some new awesome Filecoin content. So definitely subscribe and sign up for those newsletters so you can be the first one to view those. And if you've got any questions, please direct them to Teri in the events room Slack. And last but most certainly not least, we have Ben Fino-Radin, co-founder of Small Data Industries. Ben founded Small Data Industries out of a desire to bring the expertise and capabilities of the world's best museums to broader art world ecosystem. Today, Ben will tell us about how he and his team are approaching digital preservation storage through the Starling project.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Emily. So for those of you who saw me speak at Ready Layer 1, this will be kind of like a little update. And for those of you who haven't and haven't participated in the Filecoin developer little meetups, this will be all new, so welcome. So Small Data Industries is a lab based in Brooklyn, and our mission is to safeguard the permanence and integrity of the world's artistic record. And so we do this by working with cultural heritage institutions, artist studios, nonprofits, and art collections on everything, consulting and services for art conservation, digital preservation, information systems, and we have been lucky enough to work with institutions all over the world to do this work. So within our world of cultural heritage institutions, there are pretty serious standards for digital preservation. They actually come from the space data community, which is pretty cool. But there are literal ISO standards for this kind of stuff. So it's something that, in cultural heritage, people are thinking about and have been thinking about for decades in terms of how to rigorously establish whether or not you're doing a good job of stewarding digital information. Unfortunately, despite this, many of these institutions really struggle to meet the most rudimentary requirements. So this data is a little old at this point. We just did a new survey and we're in the process of updating this. But 2 years ago, we did a survey of 75 different cultural institutions, and we found that a fair amount of them had no geographic redundancy for their digital storage for preservation. So meaning everything was stored in one physical location. So if anything happened there, it would be gone. And in terms of, so there's a term in digital preservation that we use called fixity. You can think of it as authenticity. So it's the provable nature that a file hasn't changed over the course of time. And in digital preservation, people typically use a checksum like a SHA or MD5. And so this and redundancy are the two most basic requirements. And we found that only a quarter of the respondents who took our survey actually are doing any kind of fixity. So not only do a lot of people not have redundancy, a lot of people really have no way of proving if their data, hasn't been maliciously modified, if it's been deleted, if it's been accidentally corrupted. And so we really believe in the potential of Filecoin to empower the world's cultural heritage institutions to meet these really complex requirements through collaborative and cooperative communities. So we like to say that Starling is Filecoin's killer app. And we say this because we're really, really, really focused on the end users who know nothing about decentralized storage. We're really focused on the people who they just need to store digital information for a very long time, and they need to be able to prove that it's authentic. And they will do this by any means necessary, but they're probably pretty unfamiliar with all of the concepts from decentralized storage and don't necessarily want to know about them. So Starling has been a really collaborative project. And so the initial development was done in partnership with a firm called Postlight, and our key stakeholders were the USC Shoah Foundation. Of course, we've been deeply collaborative with Protocol Labs. Shout out to Mosh, who I saw is on the call. And the latest developments in Starling that we'll be looking at today were developed by the team at Digital Mob. So Starling consists of two components. There's a RESTful API and a interactive command line interface. So whether you want to build like an Electron app on top of the API, or if you just want to kind of manually store some stuff or maybe do some cron jobs or something like that, the command line would be for you. So what does it do? Basically, it does everything you would want to do with Filecoin from the highest level. Storing files in folders, downloading files, kind of monitoring your activity in terms of like what data is being replicated to miners, seeing what it's sealing and whatnot, listing your files, seeing what you have stored in the network, and auditing the integrity of your files, checking in on those really, really valuable proofs. So we abstract away from all the deal negotiation, any kind of deal stage failures. It just automatically retries, finds better deals. File chunking, so you can store files that are 1 terabyte if you want to, for instance. And we are doing also file level encryption because the stakeholders that we work with, they can't have people accessing their data because it might be illegal due to copyright, or it just might be something very, very valuable. And even if the miner only has a piece of it, they only have a chunk of it, that still wouldn't be acceptable to many stakeholders. So I just wanted to give you a quick little tour through the command line interface and show you what it looks like. So the store command can handle whatever you throw at it. If you want to store individual files or folders, you just tell it to store and it does. And before you would have gotten to this stage, when you were installing and configuring your installation, you would have told it whether or not you want to encrypt your files. And that's just a very basic public private key encryption protected by a password. And you would have also told it how many redundant copies you want to store. So many people, I'm sure, will be storing only 1 copy because they consider storing in Filecoin to kind of be analogous to maybe storing in Glacier. It's kind of like a disaster copy backup. But some people might be more heavily reliant on it, and they might want to have redundancy within the network. So you can store as many redundant copies of these files as you want. As just a matter of configuration. So downloading, similarly, is incredibly straightforward. All you need is the CID and the miner ID, so you can download from a specific given miner. And this is a background process because it does take some time. So this brings us to the monitor. So pretty typical heads-up display for command line tool. So it's kind of like HTOP in a way, and this gives you some information about your wallet balance and how many files you have stored in the network, how many miners you're connected to, and then all of your active jobs in the queue. So these are files that could be either syncing or sealing, but everything that is actively being worked on by your instance. And to list your files, it's just a single line command and it spits out a CSV. And actually, this mock-up, or this isn't a mock-up, it's a screenshot. This screenshot actually isn't up to date. It now looks more like this, which is the verify command. So as you can see, there's a little preview of the contents of the CSV. So the verify command is exactly what it sounds like. Basically, all it does is it says, it takes a given CID and it goes to that miner and it makes sure that they haven't been slashed. So basically that is just to check that the proofs have been proven recently. So that's how you know that your content not only exists, but it has existed on that particular miner's storage device over a particular period of time. So what's next? We are doing a lot of community and cohort building. We're putting this in the hands of archivists and librarians and conservators and IT professionals in the museum and cultural heritage sector. Our next stage, we really want to build a graphical user interface. A lot of our key users who we're targeting don't really use command line tools. So now that we have the API, that should be pretty easy to build on top of that. And we are continuing, of course, to do really extensive UX research because, with this project, it's not even so much about the technology. It's more, again, about how we, and I think this is similar in some ways to what Jonathan was saying about, taking these D-Web technologies and these Web3 technologies and making them understandable to people who are used to Web 2. In some ways, I think with Filecoin and just decentralized technologies in general, we're in the really early stages where when you look back to the first, computer interfaces that were point and click, from Xerox PARC or from Apple with Macintosh, skeuomorphic design was a necessary evil. We needed metaphors like the trash can, for instance, or folders, and less and less, or more and more, we've moved away from those kinds of metaphors. So we're in a similar place right now with these kinds of technologies where I think a lot of the hard work lies within how do you build trust with the user? How do you communicate these like really layered, complex issues to them in a way that's user-friendly, easy to understand, and not overly complex. So if you want to look into this further, here's the website for Starling and the 2 GitHub repos for the CLI and the API. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to drop a line in the Slack channel that was created for this.
I would like to say a huge thank you to all of our incredible presenters for taking the time to share their expertise and their projects with us, and for showing us what an incredible ecosystem that we're building on top of Filecoin. Like we said multiple times, if you have any questions or would like to present at a future meetup, then join me and our speakers over in the Filecoin events channel on the community Slack. Also, if you'd like to stay up to date on the latest Filecoin news and events, you can subscribe to our newsletter and the Filecoin YouTube channel, which are both linked in the meetup page. Thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you all again on August 11th for our next virtual meetup. Bye, everyone.